So in my last video, I talked about how to handle employee complaints, specifically the ones that carry legal weight, stuff like harassment, discrimination. In the US, maybe it's poison workplace. Those demand a process, and you need to get that right. This video is not about that, though. This is about the more common complaints. These are the ones related to annoying coworkers, things that are not fair, the lighting, their desk setup. These are the ones that happen a lot, but are usually just part and parcel of having employees, notwithstanding that they can still drain you. So if you're running a small or medium business and people bring this stuff to you, this one is for you. Hi there, I'm Andrea Adams. This is the HR Hub. I talk about all kinds of things related to HR on this channel. This is part of a special series I'm doing for small and medium business owners to help them with the challenges I see most often that they're bringing to me sometimes. So listen up. We're going to learn about complaints today. So the complaints that employees are making are rarely totally ridiculous. Most of the time, there's something real behind them, but the volume of them or the decision-making energy you put into them because you're sincere can completely wear you out. And after you've had a lot of complaints, sometimes you might start feeling resentful or dismissive because you care, but you're also thinking like, seriously, can't you work this out? Or don't they appreciate that there is a budget? That kind of thing is normal, but it's also if you're getting frustrated, it's a signal that something needs to change in how you're handling the issue, or how you're equipping employees to solve problems themselves. I won't say a whole ton about equipping employees, but if you're getting a lot of complaints, you need to ask yourselves if you have the right processes or clear expectations around the issues that are coming up. There are employees out there, and you may be one of them, who want to remain nimble and not encumbered by a lot of policy and process. And I do sincerely respect that, but here is where I would challenge you to consider putting some balance into that. Employees like fairness, they like predictability, and some of the policies and procedures do that, but it can't, you can always put those in place in a way that suits your organization and your values. But if nothing's written down, then you're constantly flying by the seat of your pants, making it up as you go. That can be really inefficient and not great for most employees. There are a few employees out there that thrive like that, but not that many. And I'm not saying that you need like a super long set of policies, but you should have the obvious stuff written down somewhere. And honestly, if this is frustrating you enough that you're even watching this video at all, then it's a sign that something needs to change. So when you get a complaint, your job is first to decide which complaints need your involvement and which you can ask the employees to handle themselves. And you can be direct about that. Early in the conversation, once you know enough about what's going on, you can ask the employee, what are you hoping happens here? Are you looking for me to step in, or do you just want to talk this through? The question does a couple things. One, it gives you information about their expectations, and it allows you to be honest if you see things differently. And sometimes they're going to ask you to step in. And you're going to say, no, I actually think this is yours to handle. And I think you're going to get a better outcome that way. I'm not going to say this often in this video, but this does not apply to any legal issues. If they're complaining of some behavior that goes against some form of the legislation, then that is a whole other ball of wax. And you need to go watch my video on complaints of a legal nature. But back to the matter at hand, most employees will accept your suggestion that they should solve the problem themselves, especially if they feel heard first. They will learn what to come to you or solve themselves over time as well. And that's especially true if you don't take over for them every time. And I genuinely do believe that if you give responsibility back to the individual, even when they don't want it, you're not being dismissive. It's actually respect. You're respecting them enough to believe that they can handle their problems, and you're setting them up to solve problems on their own, and which is, of course, what they need to be able to do over the long term. Now, if someone comes back and says, I tried that, it didn't work, you might have to go through this process again and decide if it does, in fact, need your involvement. Now, a special kind of complaint I hear about a lot is ones about managers, and this one does deserve its own discussion. If you have people below you in the org tree, if someone comes to you about a manager's tone, their communication style, how they deliver their expectations, body language, again, you should still just listen. Now, you may be tempted to think, because you know your managers well, presumably, that, that's just how that manager is, or they didn't mean it that way. I know they didn't. Because you have a good relationship with the person, you rely on that person. But if you're hearing it from more than one person, that is a red flag. Even if you do rely and trust that person, it doesn't mean you are blind to their flaws. You may need to be a little bit honest with yourself about how their approach is or is not working. And you may need to talk to your manager. I'm not suggesting you go in and you confront them with, misbehavior, but bring it to your next one-on-one or a performance conversation. Not in the sense of someone has complained about you, but more in the, I want to talk to you about how your team is working. How do you think your team is doing? And how do you think you're coming across to your team? Because in a workplace, if you're aiming for productive culture, it does matter what people do, but it also matters how people do their jobs. And, that's an important conversation to have with your managers. Now, it may seem like I'm encouraging you to become a therapist. That is certainly not my intent. But in a small organization, you are the person that people are most likely going to come to if you're at the top of the organization. So sometimes listening is the job. Maybe someone, and this happens to all of us, they're dealing with a coworker who's really getting to them. You don't need to fix it. Maybe they just need a few minutes with someone who understands the context. You're not a therapist, you're not a coach, but you can ask good questions that help them think their situation through if that's your strength. Questions like, what would a good outcome here look like for you? Or what have you tried? What worked? What didn't work? Those are coaching questions that can help move the conversation forward instead of just letting someone dump their frustration on you and walk away. You need them to walk away with tools to deal with it better in the future. Where it gets tricky is when someone keeps coming back with the same issue, or they're coming back with multiple different issues. That's when you have an honest conversation, like something that goes something like this. I see you struggling. We've talked about this or these few things a number of times now. You aren't successfully addressing it. Like, is something else going on? I don't think that's unkind. I think that's, in fact, respectful and really helpful to provide a bird's eye view to what you see going on, as long as it is delivered respectfully. And of course, and I think this is what is at the back of people's minds when these complaints are coming in, is that sometimes the issue is actually that the person just doesn't have realistic expectations about the workplace. They expect everyone to communicate the way they do. They expect to be comfortable all of the time. They expect you to make sure that they've got the perfect workplace. But having a healthy, productive work environment does not mean that the environment is going to be free of tension or free of friction. So part of your job in those cases is helping people calibrate their expectations. And you can say that directly, something like, I see that this is frustrating, but some of this is just normal friction with coworkers. Not everyone does see the world the way you do, and that's okay. And if you're still not making progress there, then you may start thinking about, like, is there a deeper mismatch here? Is this person the right fit for your workplace? I don't suggest starting from that place, but it is something worth paying attention to. And if that's the case, and if the person isn't a fit for your workplace, that is a conversation for another time and a whole different episode. So that is about it for this conversation on sort of normal run-of-the-mill complaints. If you are dealing with issues that keep piling up and you're not sure which ones need your attention or if they are pointing to deeper, more important issues, I can help. I work with small and medium businesses across Canada, in particular when things have gotten messy or stressful. So if you want to chat, you can check my contact information, which is in the show notes. So that is it for today. This was the second in a series on complaints. The first one was about legal. The next one will be about those complaints that are tied to performance management. That's when you have given someone critical feedback and now they've got a list of grievances, or maybe they're making some serious allegations. I'll walk you through how to handle those. Thanks for watching and see you next time.